What is a subject to real estate deal? I mean, you've likely heard of this. I mean, you've heard about how you can get houses essentially for free, but you're not quite sure how it works. If you like the idea of buying houses with essentially no money and building a real estate portfolio that can ultimately set you financially free, you're gonna love this. Buying a house subject to is one of the more powerful strategies in a real estate investor's toolbox, as long as you know how to explain it to the seller, how to get them to accept the idea, and then how to put all of the paperwork together. And I'm gonna cover it all. So subject to defined. It is this, it's subject to the existing mortgage. You're buying a house subject to the existing mortgage. You are taking ownership. You are officially going to appear on title. You will be the owner, but the loan is going to stay on the property in the seller's name. And ultimately, the seller is responsible for it. You are morally responsible for making those payments, but they are legally responsible. So why would any seller do this? I mean, it doesn't sound like a really good deal for them, does it? Well, what happens is life comes along. And a seller can find themselves in a number of predicaments, and they're in a position where they don't have enough equity to sell, or they just have to sell really fast and they don't have the time to wait for a traditional sale by going through a real estate agent. And what typically causes this are the investing Ds. We call it distress, drugs, disease, divorce, delinquency. You see, life can come along and kick everybody in the teeth every now and then. And when that happens, typically it's of a financial nature, and it happens to property owners, and they will turn to their property for some sort of financial relief. And they need that relief fast. And they can't wait for the traditional method. So the bottom line, for this to work, the seller has to be a motivated seller. And if you want to learn more, hit the subscribe button, because I talk about creative financing strategies like these each and every week. And if you're really serious about making money in real estate, you're not going to want to miss it. Now, the obvious problem with this, or the obvious objection, is what happens if you don't make those payments? That's a question that will invariably come up from every seller. Well, it's really simple. You let them know that this is your business. This is how you make money. And it wouldn't make much sense for you to put money into their property and not make the payments. You'll ultimately end up losing as well. Once they realize that you and their goals are in alignment, it gets much easier. If there was another option, we would certainly discuss that, but there really isn't for them in their situation, so subject to it is. Now, when the seller agrees, how do you actually put the paperwork together? What type of contract do you use? And most people think you need a special contract to complete this transaction, and you don't. All you need to do is put the price in where you would normally put the price in on the purchase agreement, and under terms, just write in subject to the existing financing. That is enough for your closing agent to know exactly what there is to do, and they'll take care of the paperwork. So nothing fancy there. Now, there is one risk to this. There's something in every mortgage called the due on sale clause, and it's an acceleration clause. And what that says is the bank, if title should transfer, they have the right to call the loan due. Now, it rarely happens because it's not in the bank's best interest, but there is the potential. But having said that, there's a very easy solution to it. You just want to be prepared for it. I actually walk you through this process step by step, including every single document that you need. You can find a link to that video down below in the description. Now, I've done a number of these deals. They happen regularly, but most recently I met with a seller that was in a situation where they didn't have enough equity to sell their property. He wasn't able to go through the traditional means of a real estate agent, and he didn't want to go through a short sale. He didn't want to contact the bank, ask for a reduction in their loan, because that would ding his credit. Now, he was on a strict time frame. He had just been relocated for his job, and he had to be across the country, and he already bought a house there, and he couldn't afford the 2 payments. His initial plan was to rent the property until he was able to sell it. And he started by placing ads and interviewing tenants and interviewing tenants and interviewing tenants, and it became a big time suck for him. Not to mention that the demands from his job was gonna make it very difficult for him to manage that property from the other side of the country. So basically, as a last resort, he decided to call me, a real estate investor, to come over and try and work something out. And what we did work out was a subject to transaction. So I gave him a few bucks for his moving expenses, and I got a new property subject to the existing mortgage. I continued to make his payments. I took over the maintenance on his property. He got to his job on time with his credit intact. So if you want to implement this strategy and you want to start building your real estate portfolio in this fashion, the next step would be to start finding sellers that would be open to subject to financing. And so what I did is I put a step-by-step video below on exactly how to do that. You'll find that in the description. So if you'd like to go deeper with these types of creative financing strategies, what I did is I put together a series, a complete series from A to Z on how these creative financing strategies work and how you can implement them in your business. So check down in the description, you'll find that link and you can get started.